Welcome to another session of Street Talk with Bar. I'm your host, Bar. Thanks for stopping by and checking me out. I hope y'all just, you know, get to just hang out with me while I make these videos. I'm not using no fancy equipment, none of that stuff. I ain't, I just talking on my phone, man. And the whole thing about these videos is, like I said, I'm not trying to promote nothing illegal and trying to glorify the lifestyle that I once lived, but I'm just trying to show some insight into the life that I once lived. And hopefully, somebody younger will try to be inspired to change their life. Because most of the time, people like to listen. If you're looking for some change, it's more likely you'll get that inspiration by somebody who's been there. I don't have all the glitz and glamour that went with that lifestyle, but I'm here. So thanks for coming by, checking me out, and keep staying with me because I got a lot in store for this channel. Just bear with me, as we navigate these YouTube streets. I wanted to say something and give a shout out, as you see in the picture, my man Mr. Magic, DJ Mr. Magic, rest in peace. I ain't never had a chance to thank him late. Uh, I never had a chance to thank him personally, but I'm going to do it in this format. And if you're not from New York, you may not know who Mr. Magic is, but he was a famous DJ that used to play on a radio station. And this was back in the 80s. And he had this one saying at the end of his show. He used to always say, it takes a wise man to learn from his own mistakes, but a wiser man to learn from the mistakes made by others. And I'm telling you, when I finally grasped what that saying meant, that saying was real pivotable in my it was real pivotal in my navigation throughout the streets. So like I said, once again, I'm gonna always say that, Mr. Magic, I ain't had a chance to thank you personally, but in this format, I'm gonna always shout you out, man. Rest in peace, DJ Mr. Magic. So the topic today is stash boxes. Stash boxes is used in the drug game to transport and hide money, drugs slash contraband, guns, anything you don't want the law to find. So we use what was called stash boxes. So let me tell you some situations in my early beginning with stash boxes. So one of my boys from Harlem, this was like in 1988. I was up there, I was at his crib with him. So when we went to leave, his girlfriend made us something to eat. We ate. And when we went to leave, I seen him pick up a 9mm off the dresser, tucked it in his waist. So we went downstairs to his car. He told me, he said, Sean, well, yeah, he called me Sean. Most of y'all know I go by Sean. A lot of y'all know I go by Bar or Bar Sean, however you want to call it. So he said, Sean, do me a favor. Don't get in the car until I tell you. So I thought that was weird, but I ain't paid no mind. So then he finally said, he rolled the window down and said, yeah, get in. So I got in and we went, we was in the Bronx at his house and we went to Harlem. So we went to Harlem. I told him, hey, pull over to the store. I want to get something to drink. I was thirsty. I wanted some water. So I went in the store, bought me a bottle of water. And when I came out the store, the police had his car surrounded. And they had him with his hands on the hood of his car, and they were searching him. I felt real bad because I was saying to myself, damn, if I wouldn't have stopped, he wouldn't be getting searched because I know he had the gun on him. So he looked at me with a little smirk while he was searching him. So they going through his car. I'm standing there watching. Then out of the blue, everything just shuts down. Everything checks out, license straight, registration, insurance. So now he's ready to pull off. So I get in the car with him and I'm looking at him sideways. So he noticed the way I was looking at him. He said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Yo, man, you working with the police?" Then he laughed. He said, "Why you ask me that?" I mean, you got that gun in your waist. They ain't find it? And then he moved his shirt in a way he said, "What waist? What gun in my waist?" And I looked and I didn't see no gun. So a few seconds later, while we driving, he does something with the AC unit, does something with the headlights. He does a few things. And then this drawer pops out. And the gun is right in the drawer in the stash box. This was my first interaction with a stash box in 1988. I was like, oh, I was tripping. I was bugging out because I never seen nothing like that. I had seen something like that. If you from the 80s, no, if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, most of y'all be aware of James Bond. He had little gadgets and stuff like that in his car. But I never seen it up close and personal, nothing like that. I mean, his car wasn't a James Bond car, but just that stash box was somewhat like kind of futuristic thing back in 88. So we laughed about it. But and he told me, he said, the less, I said, he said, only reason why I'm showing you this because you think I'm messing with the police, and I just had to let you know, but I'm not messing with the police. He said, I had to let you know I'm not messing with the police. But one thing about these streets is the less people know about you, the better off you are. And I respected him for showing me that. So now he never told me where to get one at. I asked him, yo, where you get this? He'll laugh. He wouldn't tell me. So one day I'm in Manhattan. I'm in Midtown Manhattan, driving BMW. And this white guy in a Porsche, he asked me to pull over. Now, back then in 88, 87, 86, if you was driving a nice car, it's more than likely you was into like selling drugs, more than likely. Versus today, you could be into so many different things today. You could be into everything. It's way more ways to make money, even though it was back then, but most of our generation we was in the streets. So the guy pulls me over. He goes, yo, my man, that's a nice BMW. I said, thanks. But I'm looking at him. You pulling me over saying that's a nice BMW. You driving a 911 Turbo Porsche. That was close to 100,000. And my little BMW was probably 35 the most. So I was thinking it was something else that he wanted to say. And sure enough, he asked me, he said, you ever heard of Boy George? I said, yeah, I heard of. Now, Boy George is a legendary figure in the drug game from the Bronx. I never met him. I never knew him. I never, but I've heard about him. And he was getting some major money in the Bronx. You could, Google him if you want to go into further detail about him. But he was a major player in the heroin game up in the Bronx back in the 80s. So he said, I want to show you Boy George's car. So okay. So I followed him to this shop somewhere in Midtown. I forgot where it was at. That was, like I said, this was in 89. So I followed him to the shop, and as we pull up, I noticed he had a Ferrari, Lamborghini, Alfa Romeo. He had a couple of exotic cars inside his shop. And then I seen this, I forgot what it was, black. I think it was black or blue. I know it was a dark color. It was a 750 BMW. So he showed me the car. He said, this is Boy George's car right here. I said, oh, okay, that's nice. He said, let me show you what's going on with it. So he showed me the license plates, they move. You know, you could switch lights. You have one license plate, and then you flip it from the inside of the car. You flip it, and it'll turn to a different license plate. It showed me, man, that car was now that particular car is what I would consider an official James Bond car during that thing because he had everything on it. It had little gun ports. It had oil slicks. I mean, this car. So I was in the market at the time to put what they call piping on my seats. And piping is basically, let's say your car is got black leather seats and you want to put a white trim around the outside of the seats. So that's what piping is. And during that time, it will run about anywhere from, depending on where you go, 1,500 to 3,000. So when he was showing me the interior of Boy George's car, I seen something I never seen before. Boy George had ostrich skin in his car. And I was like, wow. Now, the front seats, he was showing me the front seats, ostrich skin. I was like, now that's dope. That's different. I never seen it. Wow. So he told me ostrich skin was 7,000. Now, like I said, I wasn't in the market. I mean, I was doing my numbers, but I wasn't doing Boy George numbers. Let's be clear on that. All right? Boy George was probably making them $1 million a month. That's serious money. So he asked me, would I be interested in doing the ostrich skin in my seats in my BMW? Now 7,000 was far fetched, was a little more than I wanted to spend for the interior, but it was different. So I said, you know what, I can stretch that. I think I can stretch that because this is hard right here. It's ostrich skin. Then he goes on to tell me, but it's 7,000 just for the two front seats. The back seats are 11,000. Oh, we out of my budget. We out of my budget. Okay, yeah, that shit is fly, but it's all good. So then he wound up showing me what I've been looking for the longest. The car had a stash box. Oh yeah. So he had a good affordable price for the stash box for me, which was $4,500. So I put one in my BMW. Finally got me a stash box. And you know what? I never told nobody that I had it. Never told nobody. So that was something my boy told me about that, and I never said nothing about it, and I kept it to myself. I've been using stash boxes for like from like 88 to about 93, when I finally got rid of that car. And it served its purpose on plenty of occasions. So one time this play, us as New Yorkers, we always went out of town back in the days. I'm pretty sure they do it now. We'll go anywhere to go make some money to another state, and it's mainly up and down the East Coast, from from Boston all the way down to some parts of Florida, so and everywhere in between. So that's when the upstate New York. That's what New Yorkers do as hustlers. That's what we do. We're not just limited to being in New York City. So a dude had a play for me. He said, "Yo, Sean, I got this play out of town with this heroin move. Oh, all you got to do is tell me one. Let's get it." Now I was kind of down on my funds back then, so I always had a connect. The connect wasn't no problem. I could connect, get whatever they give me, whatever, without no money, fine. But one thing where I always go back to Mr. Magic, like I said in the beginning, he put me in a frame of mind to always do research. Just like I said, It takes a wiser man to learn from the mistakes made by others. So, with that in mind, I always research how people got busted. And that led me to just doing research on other things. Now, this is pre-internet. We didn't have the internet then. So, my sanctuary was the library. A lot of people don't know that. I stayed in the library, researching different things, what I'm associated with. And like I said, I'm still giving Mr. Magic the credit. So I stayed in the library, so researching certain things. Now, I'm telling you this while I'm researching, because part of this research, I stumbled on something that helped me in a situation. So the dude with the play, he comes to me and said, I gotta move with the heroin out of town. So I say, cool. I go to my boy and I get 50 grams of heroin just to check out. We're gonna go take it down there, see what we could do. Cool. First thing, now this is in 96. Now he tells me, oh yeah, I got a stash box. Had to put on the brakes on him, bro. Stash box. Just in case you don't know, by then, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not too clear on the date. Let me just say that. But what I will say is, by the time he told me about him having a stash box, Biggie Smalls had made a song already, and it said something to the fact of TVs in the dash, something about the stash, and some Biggie Smalls fanatics, y'all will know that verse. It said TVs in the dash. So when Biggie Smalls finally put that out to the public, stash boxes was over for me. Never again. Just like I said, my man told me, and I live by that. The less people know, the better you are. The better off you are. So when he told me about the stash box, like I said, I put the brakes on him. Nah, bro, we don't do that. He said, what you talking about? I said, I don't do that. So my research had led me upon a situation that happened with a lady. I forgot where she was coming from. She had ingested, or you could say swallowed, 2 kilos of cocaine in small pellets, small quantities, probably about 7 grams, or just over 2 8 balls or something. So she would swallow them like that. But the thing was, she put them in condoms. So 2 kilos in condoms inside your system. Now, I just had to think of that. And I said, you know what? Let alone if one of those things erupted in her system, she would have died. So just imagine, I just figured the aroma of 2 kilos escaping out of those pellets those condoms that she smelled, the aroma alone will kill you. So that told me that the condoms was keeping the smell of the drugs confined inside. So what that mean? I say that to say this. The dogs wouldn't smell it. So here we go. I tells my man, I said, we ain't gonna do that stash box shit. He said, what you talking about? I said, check it out. We had this store called Models. Everywhere, you got them stores where they sell, top of the line sneakers, but then you got some shit on the table that come twisty tied together, some cheap ass sneakers. That's what I was looking for. So my boy wears size 12. I bought him a size 13, just some big old white. Them shits just says sneakers on them. No name. Sneakers. High top. So I took the 50 grams of heroin. I put 25 grams in one condom. I took the new bright white sneakers. took a razor blade, and I grabbed the tongue. Now, with them sneakers being high top and the size 13, that means the tongue is thick and it can carry a lot when it's brand new. So what I did was I cut the tongue open, I separated with a razor blade, and I cut right down the middle of the tongue. I stuck 25 grams of heroin with the condom in one, took some crazy glue and glued it back. Presto. Looked like the shoes just came from China. Did the same thing to the other one. Put in the condom, couldn't tell the difference. And he put them on. So here we go. We on our way out of town. First day, we get to the spot that we supposed to meet the guy that's in the town that we supposed to, do the business with. Now I'm going on his word. He know this guy. Now usually when you go out of town, you get a little time to blow up. You get him, before the feds jump on you. You get a year run. I've been out of town a few times, get a year run. Unfortunately, I wasn't never got caught. But this one here was just a whole nother level. So we sitting there waiting, and out of the blue, DEA come out of everywhere. They snatch me and my boy up. They take us to this holding area where it wasn't a precinct, it wasn't no cops. It was like under a building. I think it was under a hotel because it wasn't a precinct. And in the bottom part of it, where they have their little private space, it's like these cubicles with doors. So they separated me and my man. They had me in one room. They had him in the other room, and it was locked, but the rooms wasn't. You can hear what's going on outside the room. So they brought me outside the room and tells me to strip, take off my clothes, take off the shoes. Okay, cool. Put it back on, go back in the room. Take my boy out, who's wearing the sneakers. I'm listening. I hear them telling him, do this, do that, open your mouth, turn around, and about. Then I hear them say, okay, you can take your sneakers, you can put everything back on. He was so happy. I just heard him say, yo, Sean, man, I love you. Yeah, I know. I would too if I was in your shoes. So once they didn't find nothing, they held us. They tried to interrogate us for a little while, about 2 hours, wondering, where's the stuff at? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So the one DEA agent told me, he said, the dog had alerted on your side of the truck when we brought him over there. So you might as well tell us where's it at. I said, I know he probably did alert because I was smoking weed before I came down here. So that's probably what he smelled. Oh, you're a smart ass. That's what he told me. I'm just keeping it real. That's what he probably smelled. Now, unbeknownst to me, this guy that we was going to see, I found this out maybe 15 years later. I found it out officially 15 years later. But during that time, I told my partner, because they wound up letting us go. But they kept my partner's truck. Now, what reason for that? What reason would they have to keep the truck? Everything checked out. The paperwork was right. It wasn't stolen. You didn't find nothing on us. You didn't find nothing on the initial search of the truck. You ran the dogs through there. Why can't we have the truck? So when they let us go, I asked my boy, I said, you know why they keeping your truck? He didn't know. He said, nah. I asked him, I said, this guy we going to see, do he know you had a stash box in there? He said, yeah. I said, that's why they keeping your truck. And like I said, I was just putting this together on the fly right there. I was just putting this all together on the fly. You know, my mind is moving 1,000 miles a minute. So I told him, I said, there's no reason for them to keep your truck if they didn't find us on them. Nothing on us. See, they got access to you through your truck. They told him this was on a Friday, this we got down there. They told him to come back Monday to get the truck. So what they was going to do was go through his truck piece by piece, you know, and take it apart because they was alerted that this guy got a stash box in that truck. So they let us go. So I told him, I said, I want to go see this guy. I want to see, you know. So we showed up at the guy's house, and the look on his face for him, the look on his face when he seen us, that told me a lot right there. But let me tell you how this guy was about 60 years old, right? He was a big heroin dealer. He done got busted. Him and his sons, they've been, you know, like I said, this is what I found out years later. He was about 6'8", 6'9", about 300 pounds, 60 years old. He had one eye. The other eye was like glass. This, and even at this old, even at 60 years old, if you ran into him in a dark alley, you probably, if you didn't have a weapon, you probably go the other way. That's how he looked. So when we showed up at his house, he was surprised. So I told my boy, I just want to see him. I just want to see who this dude is because I wanted to see his face when he seen us show up at his house. I just wanted that, you know, that old song is written all over your face. He ain't have to say a word. I seen it. But this was all preliminary. I didn't have no solid evidence, but just my speculation told me what I needed to know. So we wound up bouncing back to New York. We left. And then, like I said, 15 years later, through some other mutual friends that knew of this guy, told me, yo, that dude been working with the feds for about 30 years, man. I was like, wow. Wow. It's rough out here in them streets, man. It's rough out there. Like I said, whatever you could do to get out of it, make that your best move. And if you don't get started in it, that's even a better move. So I'm going to end this on a Mr. Magic note once again. It takes a wise man to learn from his own mistakes, and even a wiser man to learn from the mistakes made by others. Bar.